This flight attendant thought she was protecting first class. But in the next 20 minutes, she would make a mistake she'd regret forever. She judged a quiet man by a simple necklace. Humiliated him in front of everyone, not knowing he was one of the most respected men on earth. What happened next didn't just shock the cabin. It changed her life forever. Stay till the end, because this lesson might change yours too. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. Stop scrolling, because what happened at 35,000 feet left an entire first-class cabin in stunned silence. The cabin was calm and elegant, glowing with soft, natural lighting. Plush leather seats lined the aisle, and the quiet hum of the aircraft created a peaceful rhythm. Well-dressed passengers relaxed comfortably, some sipping champagne, others scrolling through tablets or quietly discussing business deals. Everything about the atmosphere spoke of wealth, privilege, and exclusivity. Then there was him. A quiet man sat alone by the window. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to be noticed. He wore a simple black jacket, slightly worn, and around his neck hung an old silver necklace, dull from time but clearly meaningful. His posture was relaxed, his gaze fixed on the clouds outside, as if the world below no longer concerned him. That necklace caught the attention of a flight attendant. She noticed it on her first walk past him. Then again on her second. By the third time, her expression had changed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, filled with judgment rather than curiosity. That necklace, in her mind, did not belong in first class. She stopped beside his seat and spoke loudly enough for others to hear. "Sir, are you sure you're seated in the correct cabin?" The man slowly turned his head and looked up at her, his expression calm and respectful. "Yes," he replied softly. "I am." Her gaze dropped once more to the necklace. She let out a small scoff. "First class has certain standards," she said. "And that accessory looks inappropriate." The surrounding passengers began to notice. A few turned their heads. Whispers rippled through the cabin. Someone subtly lifted a phone, ready to capture the moment. Yet the man didn't react. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply sat there, silent, composed, dignified. What no one in that cabin realized was that this quiet, unassuming passenger was Keanu Reeves, and the necklace they judged so quickly carried a story far deeper than anyone could imagine. The flight attendant crossed her arms, her patience clearly gone. Her posture was stiff, her tone sharp, as if she were guarding something precious. "Sir," she said firmly, "we have high-profile passengers in this cabin. We can't have people who don't fit the image." The words hung heavy in the air. Keanu slowly raised his hand and gently touched the silver necklace resting against his chest. His fingers traced its worn edges, and for a brief moment, his expression changed, not with anger or embarrassment, but with quiet remembrance. His eyes softened, drifting somewhere far beyond the aircraft walls. "This necklace?" he asked calmly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It belonged to someone I loved." The flight attendant rolled her eyes, unimpressed. "Personal stories don't change policy," she replied coldly. Around them, the cabin grew tense. Passengers shifted in their seats. Some looked down at their drinks, others pretended to be deeply focused on their screens. Everyone felt the discomfort, yet no one spoke. Silence filled the space, because it's always easier to stay quiet when the embarrassment belongs to someone else. What the flight attendant failed to understand was that this necklace had nothing to do with fashion. It wasn't a statement of wealth. It wasn't a symbol of status. It was a reminder. A reminder of love that once existed. A reminder of painful loss. A reminder of gratitude for everything life had given and taken away. Keanu had worn that necklace for years. He wore it through moments of fame, when the world praised him. He wore it through grief, when the world felt unbearably quiet. And he wore it during times when kindness was the only thing that kept him grounded in a life filled with attention and expectation. Still, he chose not to explain any further. He offered no defense. No argument. He simply nodded, turned back toward the window, and stared at the endless sky, almost as if the clouds understood him better than the people around him. Then, something completely unexpected happened. A man seated a few rows back slowly stood up. He was well-dressed, composed, and carried the quiet authority of someone used to being in charge. His face had gone pale, as if he had just witnessed something deeply wrong. "Excuse me," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tense silence. The flight attendant turned, clearly irritated by the interruption. "Do you know who that is?" the man asked, pointing gently toward the quiet passenger by the window. She hesitated, confused. "No, but—" "That," he interrupted, his voice steady but serious, "is Keanu Reeves." The cabin froze. For a brief moment, it felt as though the aircraft itself had stopped moving. Conversations died instantly. The soft background noise faded into nothing. Murmurs spread like wildfire from seat to seat. Eyes widened in disbelief. A few passengers who had been secretly recording lowered their phones in sudden shame. The flight attendant's face drained of all color. Her confident posture collapsed into shock as the realization hit her all at once. Keanu Reeves. The man known around the world not just for his iconic movies, but for his humility, generosity, and quiet kindness. The man praised for giving up his seat on subways, helping strangers without cameras, and treating everyone with respect. And she had just humiliated him over a necklace. I'm so sorry," she stammered, her voice shaking. "I didn't realize." Before she could finish, Keanu gently raised his hand. "It's okay," he said softly. "Just 2 words." Yet they carried more weight than anger ever could. No accusation. No bitterness. Just calm acceptance. The airline manager rushed forward, apologizing repeatedly, his voice filled with regret. Around them, passengers looked away, suddenly aware of their own silence. But in that moment, something deeper settled into the cabin. Because the real regret had only just begun, and the lesson was far from over. As the flight continued, the atmosphere slowly shifted. The earlier tension still lingered, but something softer began to fill the cabin, a quiet awareness of the human lesson unfolding at 35,000 feet. The flight attendant, her hands trembling, returned to Keanu's seat. Her eyes glistened with tears, a mix of fear, embarrassment, and genuine remorse. "I judged you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm deeply sorry." Keanu looked up, meeting her gaze. And then he smiled, not a polite, forced smile, but a warm, genuine one that seemed to fill the cabin with calm. "We all judge sometimes," he said softly. "What matters isn't that we judge, it's what we learn afterward." The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. She swallowed hard, glancing down at the silver necklace resting against his chest. Hesitantly, she asked, "Why the necklace? What does it mean?" Keanu gently traced the chain with his fingers. "It reminds me of people I've lost. And lessons I never want to forget. It reminds me that no matter what success or fame you achieve, it's meaningless if you lose compassion for others." By the time the plane touched down, the story had quietly spread among the crew. Some whispered about what had happened. Others reflected on their own judgments. But Keanu never asked for punishment, for public attention, or for the flight attendant to be reprimanded. Instead, he requested something far more meaningful. "Please," he told the airline manager, his voice calm yet firm, "train your staff to see people, not appearances." Those words stayed with everyone long after the flight ended. Far more powerful than a complaint or reprimand, they left a lesson in humility and human kindness, a reminder that true greatness lies not in appearances or status, but in compassion, understanding, and the grace to forgive. Weeks had passed since that unforgettable flight, but its lessons lingered in the hearts of everyone involved. The airline, recognizing the impact of the incident, introduced new staff training programs, focused on empathy, respect, and the importance of seeing people beyond appearances. And the flight attendant. She changed too. The woman who had once judged a quiet passenger for a simple necklace now carried a story that would remain with her for the rest of her career. She later shared the experience as the most powerful lesson she had ever learned, not because she had embarrassed a celebrity, but because she witnessed someone respond to humiliation with extraordinary grace. That necklace, which had caused so much tension and judgment, revealed its true purpose. It was never about wealth, fashion, or status. It was about humanity. It symbolized memories, love, loss, gratitude, and humility. Qualities invisible to the eye, but visible to those willing to look with compassion. Keanu Reeves left the flight the same way he entered it, quietly, humbly, and without seeking recognition or validation. Yet his presence left an invisible mark on everyone around him. Passengers, crew, and even the flight attendant walked away changed, reminded that appearances are fleeting, but character and kindness endure forever. Sometimes, the people we underestimate, the ones who seem ordinary, unassuming, or quiet, are the ones who teach the most profound lessons. In that first-class cabin, high above the clouds, a single moment of judgment turned into a lifetime lesson. It reminded everyone that respect is earned through actions, humility is timeless, and true greatness is measured not by fame or possessions, but by how we treat others when no one is watching. And as the plane descended toward the airport, the lesson hung in the air, as clear and bright as the sky outside the window, an unforgettable story of kindness, empathy, and human dignity.